Hello friends, in today's class we are going to discuss about sectors of Indian economy. Before we start, let us understand what is an economy. An economy is defined as the system or framework within which economic activities are undertaken. In simple words, economy is associated with economic activities. When we talk about an economy, then we must consider the sectors of an economy. That means an economy is made up of with different sectors. On the basis of activities being performed, we can classify Indian economy into three sectors. These sectors are primary, secondary, and tertiary. We have another criteria like working condition. On that basis, we can categorize economy into organized sector and unorganized sector. Sometimes it is also called formal and informal respectively. On the basis of working condition of the workers, we can categorize economy into organized sector and unorganized sector. Sometimes it is also termed as formal and informal sector respectively. We will discuss about these later. On the basis of ownership, we can say there are two sectors, public sector and private sector. We know that public sector, in which government takes decision and resources are owned by the government. In private sector, resources are owned by the individuals and all the decisions are taken by the market forces or by the individuals. Let us consider primary sector. Primary sector is the sector in which activities are associated with nature. In simple words, these activities are undertaken by directly using natural resources. For example, agriculture, mining, fishing, forestry, dairy, etc. All these are primary activities. It is called primary sector because it forms the base for all other products that we subsequently make. It means primary sector provides raw materials for secondary and tertiary sector. So it functions as a base for other sectors. That's why it is called primary sector. And most of the natural product we get from the agriculture, dairy, forestry, fishing, they are also called agriculture and related sector, or sometime agriculture and allied activities. Next comes secondary sector. This sector is associated with industries and manufacturing. We discussed that primary sector provides raw materials, and when that raw material is used as input and some finished items are produced by the producer, that is considered as activity of secondary sector, and that comes under secondary sector. It covers all the activities in which natural products are changed into other forms through ways of manufacturing that we associate with it, industrial activities. For example, with the help of cotton, we know that cotton yarn is used to produce cloth, and further cloth is used to make other ready-made garments. So here manufacturing is an important activity which is incompleted without the existence of primary sector, and here it is cotton. So secondary sector comes at second position. Examples of secondary sector can be given as all the industries, factories, manufacturing units, etc. It is also called industrial sector because all the activities are associated with industries. So in simple words, primary sector is known as agriculture sector, then secondary is known as industrial sector. Now comes secondary sector. tertiary sector. Next one is tertiary sector. Actually, after making some finished items, now one need to provide these items or manufactured goods to the ultimate consumers. This is done through services or tertiary sector, activities that help in the development of the primary and secondary sector. Here we must understand the meaning of goods and services. Goods are tangible. These items are tangible, which can be seen, which can be touched, they can be quantified. On the other hand, services are intangible. We cannot quantify them as in tons, in quintals, in a meter, in liter. Okay, there is no certain criteria to categorize services. Some examples of services are transportation, because goods that are produced in the primary sector, they need to be transported by trucks or train and then sold in the wholesale and retail shop. Then storage, it provides warehouses and other godowns where goods are kept. Communication, talking with others through telephone, through mobile or through other means of communication. Banking, insurance, financial, all these are considered as services. With the help of a simple example, we can understand. You can take example of mobile. A mobile is manufactured, then it comes under secondary sector. After that, softwares are downloaded. After making it update, then mobile is transported through means of transports to retailer or wholesaler. Then transportation is a service. Then it is sold to the customers, sometimes through online marketing like Amazon, Flipkart, etc. These are also sort of services. And suppose you are taking a loan for purchasing that mobile, and that loan is provided by a bank. So here banking is also a service. And finally, you also get an insurance cover for your phone. So insurance is also a sort of services. All these services are under tertiary sector. Banking, transportation, communication, and health or hospitality. All these are considered as services. You can give these examples under services. After getting the concept of economy and knowing about different sectors, let us see how do we count the various goods and services and know the total production in each sector. In simple words, how do we come to know how much is produced and how much worth of produce in different sectors? This is measured in terms of GDP. It's an interesting concept and very useful in economics. In fact, growth and development of any society or any nation is measured in terms of GDP. It stands for Gross Domestic Product. Let's see what is GDP. Actually, it is the value of final goods and services produced in each sector during a particular year, provide the total production of the sector for that year. It means GDP is like a value estimated for all final goods and services which are produced during a particular year. That year is also called financial year or an accounting year. So when we estimate value of all final goods and services in these three sectors, then we can get the value of GDP of the country by summing up the values of all the three sectors. In simple words, GDP is the gross value of final goods and services produced by an economy during an accounting year. Here we must consider the meaning of final goods. During the production of various goods, we know that raw material is used to produce a good. In case of cotton cloth, we discussed that cotton is used to make cloth. Suppose that cloth is used to make a ready-made shirt. I know that one thing is coming in your mind, that you have already studied this concept in class 7th when you learned a chapter, shirt in the market. So obviously the story of shirt starts from the cotton and finally that turns into a ready-made shirt. So value of cotton is already included in the value of shirt. Value of cloth is also included in the value of shirt. So shirt is here a final goods, and cotton and cloth and even other things like button, yarn, etc. These are called intermediate goods. So we must consider only final goods for estimating GDP. In fact, GDP shows how big the economy is. It means value of GDP. It determines the size of economy, and accordingly economies are compared. When we compare Indian economy with our neighboring countries or with neighboring economies like Pakistan, China, Nepal or Myanmar, then we say that Indian economy is growing at rapid rate, growing fastly, and China's economy that is also getting good growth. So here we can compare different economies. एकदम सामान्य शब्दों में कहें तो जीडीपी के आधार पर हम विभिन्न देशों को एक दूसरे से तुलना करके और यह बताते हैं कि कौन सा देश जो है वो प्रगति कर रहा है, कौन सा देश जो है वो अभी प्रगतिशील है. We know that different sectors, they contribute in GDP of an economy, like primary, secondary and tertiary. They give their contribution in GDP. How much they contribute, that is very important, that is very significant. But as time passes, that contribution or their share in GDP, that also changes. It's very interesting to study these changes. At initial stage, primary sector plays an important role. Primary sector contributes much more than other two sectors in GDP. In the initial stage of the development, primary sector, obviously it was the most important sector of economic activities. As the method of farming changed, means as we started to adopt new technology and modern inputs, it produced much more food than before, and many people could take up many other activities, which led to the increase in number of activities. In simple words, as farming became more complex and complicated, then it caused emerging of new activities associated with farming, with agriculture. However, at this stage, most of the goods produced were natural products from the primary sector here. Hence, most people were employed in this sector. That means primary sector provided employment opportunity to the people. In second stage, after developing agriculture or farming, it was the phase of development of secondary sector. That means now people started to produce goods with the help of natural resources. Like now sugarcane can be used to produce sugar. Cotton now is to be used to make cloth and ready-made fabrics. Secondary sector gradually became the most important in total production and employment. So you can say in second stage we can experience a shift and the importance of the sectors from primary to secondary. And in third stage, obviously, service sector. It developed much more than primary and secondary sector. In past 100 years, we can experience further shift from secondary to tertiary sector. In the developed countries, service sector has become the most important in terms of total production, and most of the working people are also employed in the service sector. It shows the importance of tertiary sector and the growth of tertiary sector, because tertiary sector or services like trade, hotel, transport, communication, financing, insurance, real estate and business services, all they grew at 11 to 13%, especially financing, insurance, they grew at 8 or 9%. So overall, service sector performed better than primary sector and secondary sector. Now, let us discuss about the occupational structure. Which sector provides more employment, or in which sector more people are engaged? Obviously, in a country like India, most of the people, they are earning their bread and butter from agriculture and allied activities. So primary sector still employs the largest number of people. It is because not enough jobs were created in the secondary and tertiary sector. So still agriculture or farming is the most common activity or practice performed by the Indian people. But when we talk about agriculture, we must consider a phenomenon that is called underemployment. In agriculture, particularly in context of Indian farming, we can observe that many people are working on a farm base, and these are more than required people. It means on a same land base, if we remove some people, it doesn't affect total production. So they seem like they are working, they seem like employed person, but in fact they are not contributing in total production. So they are termed as disguised unemployment. The situation is also known as underemployment. It is also called disguised or disused unemployment. And farming or agriculture is most common in disguised unemployment, most suffered sector. Government has also played important role in providing employment opportunity, and regarding that, government passed an act in 2005. It was National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. The act was implemented across the country in selected districts at initial stage in 2006. This program was launched by the central government. It was not a program or scheme, it was an act. First time the act was passed, which assures that every rural household will get at least minimum 100 days employment in a year. At initial stage, it was launched in 200 selected districts of India, and later on it was implemented across the country in all districts. The work will of the type which will in future help to increase the production from land. In Narega, people are given different kind of works and they get a wage rate as per minimum wage fixed by the state. On the basis of working conditions, we can categorize economy into organized and unorganized sector. Organized sector where people are getting work in good condition, they are given fixed salary, their working time is also fixed, and they are also getting social securities. Like in this picture you can see the workers are sitting in a comfortable environment. It may be a bank or any kind of office, but it's an organized office or organized sector. On the other hand, unorganized sector where people do not get fair salary, they do not work in better condition, they are also not given social security. Simple words, they are very casual type of work. So this is called unorganized sector. अगर एम्प्लॉयज़ के नंबर्स के बेस पे हम बताएं तो हम यह कह सकते हैं कि कोई भी ऐसा कोई प्लांट या कोई फैक्ट्री या कोई कारखाना जहाँ पे 10 या उससे अधिक लोग काम कर रहे हैं तो उसे ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर या फॉर्मल सेक्टर कहेंगे, और यदि यह शर्त पूरी नहीं होती है तो उसे अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर कहेंगे. ये बेनिफिट हैं ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर के. टर्म्स ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट आर रेगुलर, सो पीपल हैव assured work, registered by the government. They also follow rules and regulations given in various laws. They have some formal process and procedure like particular recruitment, then interview, and after that final selection and training and probation, etc. You can compare these two pictures and you can easily identify which one is organized sector, which one is unorganized sector. Benefits from the employers. They are given paid leaves, payment during holidays. They also provided provident fund, gratuity, medical benefits. Workers get pension after retirement. All these are benefits given by the employers to employees in organized sector or in formal sector. In unorganized sector, there are small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of the government. That means government doesn't interfere in these units directly. There is no rules and regulation. If rules and regulation are there for such sector, then these are not followed. Low paid jobs and are not regular. The working condition is worsened. And disadvantage from the employers. In unorganized sector, there is no provision for overtime, paid leave, holiday leave. Employment is not secure. Like farmers work on their own and hire laborers, and when they require, some people can also be asked to leave the job. Hire and fire policy, यानी जब ज़रूरत हो तो उनसे काम लो और नहीं तो बाद में छुट्टी. इस तरह की इनसिक्योरिटी जो होती है वो अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में होती है. अब क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि ऐसे अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर्स के लोगों को एक्सप्लॉयटेशन से कैसे प्रोटेक्ट किया जा सकता है, एंड व्हाट गवर्नमेंट हैज़ डन फॉर सच पीपल सेटिंग अप स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज इन सेमी रूरल एरियाज. जो रूरल और अर्बन एरिया के बीच का सा जो है जिसमें दोनों तरह के फीचर्स रहते हैं, ऐसे सेमी रूरल एरियाज में स्मॉल स्केल इंडस्ट्रीज जो है वो इस्टेब्लिश की जानी चाहिए ताकि लोगों को एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिले. इम्प्लीमेंटिंग मैनी प्रोग्राम्स सच एज नरेगा, या नरेगा जैसे और भी स्कीम्स जो हैं, प्रोग्राम्स हैं, वो भी लागू होने चाहिए जिससे लोगों को रोजगार की एक सिक्योरिटी हो. एटलीस्ट इतने डेज उनको रोजगार मिलेगा ऐसी कुछ गारंटी हो. और डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ सर्विसेज जो है इट शुड बी डेवलप्ड लाइक इन सर्विस सेक्टर. On the basis of ownership, we can categorize sectors in public and private. And public sector, which is organized by the government, provides facilities to the workers like fixed employment, fixed working hours. Its main aim is to provide public welfare. In public sector, decisions are taken by the government and their main or motive is to provide public welfare. They do not work for earning profit. Examples of public sector are Indian Railway, hospital, parks, libraries, Indian Postal Services, etc. Public services provided by the governments are, you can see here, library, Indian Railway, hospitals, postal services. Private sector, organized by the private individuals, that means resources are owned by the individuals in private sector and decisions are taken by the individuals, and obviously they work for earning profit. They are not meant for public welfare. They just want to increase their profit, and for that sometimes they cut the employment and it reduces their cost. So in simple words, private sector functions to earn profit and public sector functions for public welfare. For example, private sector, बिरला कंपनी, रिलायंस etc. जो भी प्राइवेट कंपनीज हैं आप देख सकते हैं, वो इंडिविजुअल जो हैं वो उनके मालिक हैं और वही लोग सारे डिसीजन लेते हैं. क्वालिटीज़ की अगर बात करें, पब्लिक सेक्टर प्राइवेट सेक्टर दोनों को अगर हम कंपेयर करें तो जॉब सिक्योरिटी पब्लिक सेक्टर में रहती है. दे आर ऑल्सो गिवन जनरस बेनिफिट एंड मोर रिलैक्स्ड एटमॉस्फेयर, मतलब उन पर काम का प्रेशर नहीं होता उस तरह का. प्राइवेट सेक्टर की अगर बात करें तो मोर अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ फॉर प्रमोशन एज द कंपनी ग्रोथ, यानी कंपनी की अगर ग्रोथ होगी तो उसका फ़ायदा एम्प्लॉय को मिलेगा, और यदि एम्प्लॉय में क्वालिटी होगी देन ही विल गेट मोर प्रमोशन. एंड जॉब्स टेंड टू पे हायर, उनको पैसा भी ज़्यादा मिलता है इन प्राइवेट सेक्टर. मोर प्रेस्टीज इन द प्राइवेट सेक्टर इज सपोजली मोर एफिशिएंट, लेस ब्यूरोक्रेसी. ये कुछ एक कंपैरिजन के पॉइंट्स हैं, पब्लिक सेक्टर की क्वालिटीज़, दूसरी तरफ प्राइवेट सेक्टर की क्वालिटीज़. थैंक यू वेरी मच.